What's interesting about that is that there's no climactic scene in the film. That's the climax of the movie. The climax of the movie is stirring the sauce and watching out for a helicopter and going to pick up his brother, and Jimmy with his blue terry cloth robe with the cigarette in his mouth saying those drugs are making your mind into mush. Where when we closed the door, he started laughing. De Niro and Ray Liotta started laughing because of the way he said it, the way he had that. He just threw in with the cigarette in his mouth, and he looked like some. The look with the blue terry cloth robe was come a long way, Bob, to put that robe on. Like Uncle Jimmy at home, you know. Sweet. Like when he opened the door, he had that robe and his slippers on his sets. And instead of delivering like milk, he's delivering guns. You know.
The doorway.
It's not that. Forget it. It's no good. Right in the door. Everybody don't care.
Stop with those fucking drugs. They're making your mind into mush. You hear me?
Take them back.
Editor, Thelma Schoonmaker.
When Ray Liotta's on his way to pick up his brother at the hospital, and he almost has an accident, and there's some very quick cutting of his feet flying around, and how the car stops just before hitting the car in front of him. Marty had designed that all to be edited to the Who Live at Leeds, and so we wove a little texture of all those pieces together, just exactly the way he had conceived of it, and it worked like crazy. And then the accident occurs. It's such a great build-up over Ray's frantic, sweaty face looking at helicopters trying to drive.
I thought I wanted to create in the audience kind of that state of panic or, the state of excitement and panic that it may be associated with, long periods of drug taking, really. And I wanted to recreate that sense in the audience.
No, I'm fine, Doc.
Come on, get over here.
Doc, I'm fine.
Let me check you out. Come on.
Well, he took mercy on me. He gave me 10 milligrams of Valium and sent me home. Now, my plan was to drop off my brother at the house and pick up Karen.
I do think that sometimes that people think that a good deal of what Marty is doing is done in the editing, but they have to remember that what he has done all along is he's had a very strong conception, and he's carefully created and shot the film in a way that it will come together in the editing room the way it does. And so the editing often is given way too much credit, I think, because you have to have those powerful shots. You cannot make a scene, even something as static as What's So Funny About Me, you couldn't make that scene. An editor couldn't make that scene if it hadn't been shot a certain way, directed a certain way, and acted a certain way. So I often tell students, don't think, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You have to have extraordinarily good footage, and I get it from Marty all the time.
Carving their initials in the tomato.
No, I kept looking out the window, and I saw that the helicopter was gone.
Mike, keep an eye on the sauce, all right? Stay here with your Uncle Michael, all right? I'll see you later.
So I asked my brother Michael to watch the sauce, and Karen...
Ray Liotta.
I remember the actual sauce was a sauce that Marty Scorsese's mother made, which was excellent.
The sauce, which could be aggravating if you cook that sauce all day and then it's burnt. And my mother, people would really... I saw Francis Coppola get very angry one night when he made the sauce and it got burned. It's a very tricky situation. They take it deadly serious. But, there's a helicopter following you.
For some reason, people who have experienced that kind of lifestyle, that really gets them. So I actually had people come up to me and said that they were, had trouble with coke, and anytime they got a little tempted, they would turn on that last scene there, because that paranoia, it just brought them back to a certain state that they would rather forget, and it was enough to stop them. It's true. So.
Not to touch anything outside the house, nothing, right?
Music in this movie is just incredible.
For example, there's a wonderful shot that Marty did, which swish pans to the sky, and he had a piece of Muddy Waters music that he always knew he wanted to use there, and it just went in beautifully, like icing on a cake, because it had been thought out so well.
And it's we shot it, and, I'm looking up, and, they're telling me where to look. There's where the plane is going to be. You do your research and your homework, and you know what you're supposed to do. But any movie that especially, that stands is a combination of the script, the directing, the acting, the editing, and the music. And this movie is a combination. I think everything just kind of came together on it.
All right.
Beautiful, beautiful. They're great, great. Now, didn't I tell you were paranoid?
Thelma Schoonmaker.
I think an editor does need a tremendous amount of discipline, patience, incredible patience, and you should be the kind of person who works well in collaboration with a director, because it's his vision that you're helping get up on the screen, and you must support and help him do that. And to be in a situation where you're fighting over the film is very unpleasant, and I would hope is not too frequent, but probably it is. But not with Marty, because he's the first person, for example, if there's anything that hasn't worked out as he has dreamed of it, he's the first person to say, oh, we have to find another solution. He's never a stick in the mud or adamant that something has to be the way he shot it, whether it's right or wrong. Never, ever has he been that way. So he's very, very critical of his own work, extremely critical, too critical, I think. So he's constantly judging what he has done all day long in the editing room. He's constantly saying to himself, was that good enough? Was that good enough? It's wonderful to be that way, because his standards are so high, but it's painful. It's very painful. Marty's a very emotional person, and I am more of an even keel person, so it helps to I think those two personalities kind of work together well.
After everything I told her, after all her yeah bullshit, she picks up the phone and calls from the house.
Well, I think Marty has always been willing to be very extreme at times. For example, in Gangs of New York, the wonderful scene where Daniel Day-Lewis takes a very long time to say certain lines is something most directors would never do. But Marty sensed right away that it was going to be right, and he was very courageous in the editing at letting the shot hold for a very, very long time. And that's what makes such a great laugh when Daniel delivers a line. And that's happened over and over in films I've worked on with Marty. He's very, very bold. He loves to break the mold. He loves to be unusual. He loves eccentricity, inventiveness in actors. He hates cliche, absolutely hates it, and would die before he would allow it to go up on the screen. And he hates what he sometimes calls TV acting or TV writing, which is very molded and traditional and expected.
Taking the babysitter on the plane, and she wanted to get her lucky hat. I mean, these are the details of living with that. It's almost like when you're making a film too. I mean, in a way, this person doesn't want to do that. That person doesn't want to do. Can't have that. That goes too far. Okay, we can shoot for like 2 seconds in between 2 planes that are taking off and one landing, and you can't show this guy's face over here because he got hurt the other day, and you got to have this. Or what can we get? We can show his hand. Okay, let's shoot the hand. It gets down to that. It gets down to I don't have my lucky piece. Okay. So in a way, that the sense I'm trying to get at is that it's. I was interested in the minutia, or at least at his level, and I think in the minutia you're able to see a reflection of the whole world.
Lois, do you understand what we're involved in here?
I don't care. I need my hat. I won't fly without it.
I wanted the soundtrack to the voiceover to become, especially by that point, The Last Day as a Wise Guy, by that point to become almost like a piece of music. It even doesn't matter what he's saying anymore. It's just rattling words until finally the policeman holds a gun in his head and says, "Don't move, I'll blow your brains out." And the most unexpected thing comes out of his voiceover, out of his mouth in the voiceover. He says, I knew it had to be cops, because if it was wise guys, I'd be dead. They don't tell you. They just shoot, So he was relieved, and the relief on his face is a relief of the whole film, really. His whole life, in a way.
If they had been wise guys, I wouldn't have heard a thing. I would have been dead.
I knew what the story was. In my sleep, I knew what it was. I had learned the voiceover. I had that because I asked Marty, should I just read it? I don't, we did that the last day of filming. I did all my homework, so I knew, and plus I knew my place as the character. I knew who Henry was, and he was Tommy, and I was. They were the glitter, and I was the glue. I think it was the day after, and I'm not a smoker, but I think I was the only one on the set that Marty allowed to smoke real cigarettes. And I don't think I'll ever do it again in a movie, man, because, you know, take after take, and if you're just lighting one, so my voice and everything was hoarse, and Henry's brand wasn't exactly would have been the brand that I chose. And it was the day after, so we were just exhausted from a 3 or 4 month shoot. And so we started, it was in a little theater, and they had the mic there, and so I just started, you know, as far back as I can remember. I always wanted to be. Again, I wasn't feel like I was connecting, so I asked, like you or it was a sound guy, if he would sit in front of me, and that gave me a focus. So then, because what I'm doing is basically I'm telling that story, because when you pull back, and I can't remember how much I remember it now, actually. Off the witness stand, you could see that I'm talking to the camera, so I figured I'd use that, and I'd want to talk to somebody. So I said, can I start it again? I don't feel like right. And I sat down and started telling this guy that I didn't know, the sound guy, the story.
He wanted us to tell a story. I remember that. You need to tell me the story. And I remember he put either it was himself or someone else in front of me to talk to.
And we just did it, I think, in a few hours. And, you know, because I asked more, should I have it memorized? Should I, you know? So I knew it throughout. So I knew when we were doing the scene exactly what I was saying, because I just remember it, you know, at this time, what you're seeing on film and what I was saying. And I think we just did it in one day, maybe 2, but I think it was 1.
This is the bad time.
As you notice, though, if you do notice, at a certain point, once things start to turn against them, things build higher and higher into a pitch in which it reaches a culmination. And then everything after that, for the last 20 minutes of the picture, there's no music, it's very quiet, and they got to pay now. Now they have to pay.
Where's the stuff that I left, Karen?
I flushed it down the toilet.
Executive producer, Barbara DeFina.
The post-production was really sort of difficult because we had previews, and the first few times it was shown to audiences, Marty's movies never preview really well anyway, which, you know, there's the whole thing about numbers and boxes, and you know, the audience, they fill out cards, and his movies usually don't get really high numbers. And Goodfellas didn't get really high numbers, which wasn't surprising. But what was surprising is that the audience got really, in some cases, almost violent. We had one experience when we tried to preview it in California, and the projector broke.
Editor, Thelma Schoonmaker.
It wasn't that the film broke, actually. The sound didn't work. The man and the projectionist in the booth had forgotten to flip a switch. And so they started the running, and there was no sound. They stopped. They rethreaded. They started again. There was still no sound. They stopped. And finally, the third time, they thought it was going to be like Frankenstein and the mob. You know, they were going to get lynched.
And the audience was so angry. I mean, I don't want to buy into, you know, movies make people violent. I don't think they do. But the movie has such an effect on people, you know, and really does stir up emotions. And I think that was very surprising. And you know, I mean, I think the movie looks, I mean, I love the way it turned out. I love the way it looks, it sounds, and the actors are great. But the emotional reaction of the audience was kind of a shock.
You know, I can be trusted now, Paulie. I'm clean. On my kids, I'm clean.
You looked in my eyes, you lied to me. You treated me like a fucking jerk.
Paul Sorvino.
At my first screening of Goodfellas, I was expecting good things because, you know, Bobby De Niro, who's better than he is, and Joey, my friend, so talented, and Ray, and I wasn't exactly chopped liver myself, and the great Martin Scorsese, and Pileggi, and Ballhaus, all these wonderful people involved. I said, how can this be anything but a sensational movie? I sat down to watch it, and from the first scene, I thought it was awful. I thought it was so violent, and I thought it was so boring, and so tedious, and so uninteresting, and I thought I was absolutely wretched in it. I regretted being in it. I said, how could they make such a movie, and how could I have been in it? And when the lights came up, I said, this is bad. And my daughter Mira said, this is the best thing you've ever done. And Amanda said, my other daughter, this is a great movie. I said, no, it's not. It's awful. This is a terrible movie.
$3,200.
And the audience was wild about it. And I said, wow, what a terrible movie. And about 2 or 3 hours later, I came out of this cloud that I was so blown away by it. This has never happened to me before or since. I was so blown away by the movie, I was in a state of shock. It's as if you had hit me with a baseball bat. I was shocked and stunned. I could not see it for what it was because it so overwhelmed me.